we keep waiting until it's too late and we have to wrestle with the dog. Instead of doing the prep work, we could. That would make life a lot easier if it comes to some kind of necessary situation. In this episode of A Dog Soul, an empath's guide to your dog's feelings, you're gonna meet Jessie, a little mix, who just wasn't having it when her mom tried to put on necessary eardrops. So stay tuned and have fun. Alright, so Jessie was a little dog. She was some kind of mix. It was really hard to say what was in there, so let's just say she was a little mix. And her mom was looking for training, really desperate to help her dog because Jessie had an ear infection and she needed eardrops. But whenever her mom came anywhere near her with the eardrops, Jessie would try to hide. And if there were nowhere to hide, because she had one time trapped her in the bathroom first, she would try to bite. And it was getting more severe every single day they tried to apply these eardrops. So what they had to do was take her to the vet every single day to get the eardrops in because she was frozen at the vet, so it was possible to do it there. But at home, it was completely insane. She was not cooperative in any kind of way. And until that day, Jessie had been a very easygoing dog. She had not been trained a lot. She knew the basics she needed for her life, so she was wonderful off leash. She had a really good recall. She knew how to sit for a treat, and she was fine with other dogs and all those things. She was not really afraid of anything, and there was never any incident where her mom had the slightest fear of getting bitten whenever she manipulated anything on Jessie. So she could remove ticks, she could just clip her toenails. Even though Jessie didn't like it, she was accepting it. So her mom just did it, alright? And Jessie would not snap or anything like that. She would just wait and have it done. So when this started with the eardrops, her mom was really startled. She was quite shocked at how her little angel could act that way, right? She would have never guessed. And whenever it came to a discussion like that, she would always tell people my dog would never bite anybody until she did. And it wasn't just somebody. I mean, a lot of people are, not to say fine, but not that concerned if a dog snaps at anybody on the street or some kind of stranger or even the vet or the trainer. But it was the primary caregiver. It was the mom. And this is what usually triggers some kind of action. And it did in Jess's case as well. So training takes time, right? There was no way we could train her to accept eardrops within a day. So she did continue to go to the vet and have the eardrops put in there, which was not a perfect solution, and I wasn't happy with it. Mom wasn't happy with it. Jessie wasn't happy with it. Nobody actually was happy with that solution, but it was the best we could do. And it was the most stress-free for Jessie, actually, because hunting her down in her own home and wrestling her to the ground was even worse, right? And like I said, training takes time. But we did start immediately, and we did not start on the ears. We started with introducing a cooperative care ritual, so medical training, basically. Jessie learned to rest her chin on a little pedestal. It was really adorable. It was like for puppets. almost for puppets. But it was so cute. She learned that pretty quickly. So her mom was totally in love with Jessie again and how clever she was, and it was adorable. So Jessie learned that pretty quickly, and she enjoyed doing anything with her mom, right? So they played this little game of resting her chin and getting a treat, and then her mom started to introduce different items to this procedure. So Jessie was getting used to different things being there and then different things being held against her and then different things used on her. So this sounds a little bit like torture, but it's not. It's just they started with a brush and then I think they even started before the brush with a wooden spoon to just take something neutral. But then they switched to a brush pretty quickly. And so Jessie learned how to get brushed holding her cooperative signal. And whenever the brush got near the head, she was getting a little bit timid. She was interrupting the signal more often. So we did take time, especially for the head, and started very, very, very slowly. So Jessie learned to just be fine with things lying around, with her mom's hand nearing her head, not the ears yet, but her head. And it took quite some time to really get to the ears because Jessie had made the experience that whenever somebody touches her ears, it hurts really badly. And also, what makes things worse is always when a dog makes the experience that he or she cannot escape. And that leads to panic. And panic is such a horrible experience that reprogramming that and introducing the same situation but with nice feelings is so much harder. And that's why it's so important to do this kind of training, even though your dog doesn't need any medical attention yet. There will be a time where your dog will need any kind of treatment. And maybe your dog is fine with that, but maybe not. And this is a gamble I would just not take. Because, like in Jess's case, this is not something unusual. This is something that happens all the time. If a dog makes the experience of panic and or pain, but if panic is included in the whole thing, it's a lot harder to get rid of than if we had just started the training before, right? So this was a lesson learned for her mom, and they continued the training and they did so many awesome things together. And there was a time when Jess's mom could actually get to the ears and it was fine for Jessie. But they didn't stop there. This was such a horrible thing that had happened to them, even though nobody got hurt and there was not something legal or anything like that. It was just psychological, mostly. I mean, she did bite, but it wasn't like she drew blood or anything. But for both of them, they decided that their relationship is more important and that they have to work on these things together. And her mom also didn't want to go to the vet and have Jessie frozen there, right? She wanted to make this experience as good as possible for her. And let's be honest, vet is a new level in this game, right? The vet's office is very often connected with negative emotions, with fear. And again, fear is not that easy to overcome, depending on how strong it is and how many of those bad experiences the dog had. So they started with just introducing the area around the vet's office with nice things. after the treatment had been done. So after they had finished it. And they got as far as walking up to the front door. But that was it. So thankfully, they were living in a city with a lot of great vets, and they really regret having to do this, but they switched vets. They loved their vet before. She was amazing. She was doing everything she could to make the experience as good as possible. But sometimes it still happens that the dog makes such a bad experience, and there is nothing that will get rid of that, right? So they did switch vets, but they continued to train with the old vet's office just because at first she wanted to go back to her vet again, but then she just wanted her little dog to stop being afraid because the vet was really close to them, and that meant that Jessie was being afraid when they walked in their own neighborhood, and that is just very sad, right? So they started training there, and it worked really well. I don't know if they ever got to switch back to her original vet again for treatments, but I do know that they did make a lot of progress in the area, so Jessie was definitely no longer afraid of walking in the neighborhood. And this was a huge step. So, sure, we cannot predict everything, and we will always run into situations that we didn't think would ever happen and that we didn't train for. But things like the vet and treatments and grooming and all those things, those are pretty common for dogs, right? I mean, we all need them at some point, and it really helps if we prepare our dogs for that. And if we need that we already have a ritual, we already have the process that we both know really well, so it's no longer stressful. Because let's be honest, it's stressful for us as well, right? If we suddenly have to do something to our dogs that we never did before and that we have no idea of how to do, right? With my first cat, for example, I had to start giving him insulin shots. He was diabetic, and I had no experience in animal treatments. I did have a little bit of experience with horses, but cats are a little bit more difficult than horses. And if we had done a little bit of cooperative care, it would have been a lot easier to get used to doing that. So this is why I recommend doing cooperative care to almost all my clients, but especially puppies, because they learn so quickly and they enjoy doing stuff with us, even more than adult dogs sometimes, and it's pretty easy to train them. So this builds up a lifelong positive association with all those things, and this is really, it's amazing. So what I want you to do today is pick a cooperative care signal, so pick something that your dog can actually do and start training. And if you're not quite sure, go to YouTube, type in cooperative care and check out the videos, especially by Chirag Patel. He is absolutely awesome, and he has great videos on cooperative care on YouTube. And no, I don't get anything for promoting that, but I just love his videos. So check that out if you haven't started. And if you need help, don't be shy. Let's just chat about it and see how I can help. That's it. Have a lot of fun training, and we'll see each other next time. Bye.